So what does it really mean to have a living, breathing relationship with divine guidance? Today we're going to dive into that by looking at the life of one of history's most powerful figures and see how his personal journey was literally shaped by a conversation with God.
Think about that for a second. Can the deep, honest worries of just one person actually reach up and influence a divine message that's being sent down for all of humanity? It's a huge idea, and, as we're about to see, it played out in the most incredible way. And the person we're going to focus on is Umar ibn al-Khattab, one of the closest companions of the Prophet Muhammad. See, his story isn't just about following a set of rules. It's about being in a direct dialogue, getting an education straight from the Quran as it was being revealed.
So where do we even begin with a story like this? Well, it all starts with Umar's basic worldview, the bedrock that his entire relationship with God was built on. And that foundation was just absolute, unshakable certainty.
This verse right here really gets to the very heart of how Umar saw the world. He completely absorbed this truth, that God is a witness to every single thing you do, every thought, every word. Just imagine living your life with the constant, vivid knowledge that nothing, not even something as tiny as an atom, is hidden from your Creator. For Umar, this wasn't just some abstract concept. It was a living, breathing reality.
And this incredible awareness of God's presence was perfectly paired with a deep understanding of his own humble beginnings. He knew that humans start from something as simple as clay, brought to life only because God breathed the soul into them. This didn't make him arrogant. It made him deeply grateful. And it was this humility that really opened his heart to have such a sincere back and forth with divine revelation.
This foundation of certainty and humility led to one of the most amazing parts of Umar's whole journey. These moments where his personal judgment would line up perfectly with what was just about to be revealed from the heavens. This phenomenon actually has a name, muwafaqat. It's this idea that because he was so in tune with the purpose of the Quran, Umar would sometimes voice an opinion or a concern, and then boom, a verse would come down that directly confirmed his insight. It's a pretty remarkable sign of just how connected he was. Umar himself said his opinion matched up with God's will on 3 big occasions. First, he suggested taking the station of Abraham near the Kaaba as a spot for prayer, and a verse came down making it so. Then, he advised the Prophet's wives about the importance of veiling, and the verse of hijab was revealed. And maybe the most direct example, he once warned the Prophet's wives about their conduct, which led to a very direct revelation. And this just shows you exactly what we're talking about. After Umar spoke these words, pretty much word for word, out of his concern for the Prophet, this verse was revealed. It echoed his exact sentiment. It's a powerful reminder that the Quran was a living guidance, interacting with the real, sincere concerns of the people on the ground.
All right, let's see how this intense connection led to a really critical moment, an event that drew a sharp line in the sand between true belief and the hypocrisy that was hiding within the community.
So you have to picture the scene. It's tense. Abdullah ibn Ubay, the known leader of the hypocrites in Medina, has just died. The Prophet Muhammad, out of his boundless mercy, stands up to lead the funeral prayer for him. But Umar physically steps forward and objects, basically asking the Prophet why he would pray for a man who was a known enemy of God, and he starts listing all the terrible things the man had done.
And suddenly you have this incredible standoff. On one hand, you have the Prophet's immense mercy. On the other, Umar's firm stance on principle. Which one was right? The companions are all watching, holding their breath, waiting to see what the divine judgment would be.
And then, the answer came. Straight from heaven. This verse descended. And it didn't just confirm Umar's position, it set a clear, permanent rule for the entire Muslim community from that day forward. It was a profound lesson that divine guidance establishes clear boundaries, sometimes even correcting the most merciful inclinations of a prophet. Now let's shift to another really high-stakes moment. This one happened right after a major battle and involved a critical decision about the future of the new Muslim community.
So, after their first huge victory at the Battle of Badr, the Muslims had captured 70 prisoners. The big question was, what do we do with them? Should they ransom them back to their families for money, which the poor community desperately needed? Or should they be executed as the leaders of disbelief?
2 very different views came out. Abu Bakr argued for taking the ransom, for showing mercy. But Umar, he took a much harder line. He argued for executing the leaders of the enemy, to set a powerful precedent, to show that there was, in his words, no inclination in our hearts towards them. In the end, the Prophet sided with Abu Bakr and took the ransom.
But that wasn't the end of it. A revelation came down that gently corrected the decision.
This verse made the divine priority crystal clear. God desires the hereafter for you, but you desired the good of this world, the ransom money. Umar's focus on the bigger, spiritual picture had just been affirmed by heaven. The impact of this verse was immediate and overwhelming. Umar said he found the Prophet and Abu Bakr weeping the next day. When he asked them why, the Prophet explained that because of their decision, a punishment had been shown to him that was, as he put it, closer than this tree. It was just a heavy, powerful lesson on the weight of leadership and divine correction.
Now let's look at a case that was more about personal devotion, where Umar's plea for clarity on a huge social issue was answered not all at once, but step by step.
You see, Umar kept praying for a final, decisive ruling on alcohol. The divine answer came in stages. First, a verse mentioned that it had both sin and benefit. Then another came down forbidding prayer while intoxicated. But each time, Umar would pray again for a final word. At last, a verse was revealed that listed all its evils, and then ended with this incredibly powerful question. So will you not then abstain? For Umar, that question was more powerful than any direct command. His response was instant: we have abstained, we have abstained. And all of this brings us to the culmination of this whole story, the moment when Umar stood as a direct witness to the completion of the entire divine message that he had literally lived and breathed for so long. This is one of the most significant verses in the entire Quran. It came down near the very end of the Prophet's life, and it declared that the faith was now perfected, complete. The message was final. And who was there? A conscious, direct witness to this capstone moment of history. Umar, of course. He later told people, "By Allah, I know the exact day on which this was revealed and the hour at which it was revealed. It was in the evening of Arafah on a Friday." This just perfectly sums up his incredible journey. He wasn't just memorizing the Quran, he was living its revelation. And so we end right back where we started. The life of Umar ibn al-Khattab shows us that a relationship with revelation isn't a passive thing. It can be an active, dynamic education that literally transforms your mind, your heart, and your soul. And it leaves us all with a pretty big question to think about. How do you and I live a life that is truly in conversation with the divine?